Look at the control panel of almost any modern skyscraper, and you'll see a gap between 12 and 14. In structural engineering, this is triskaidekaphobia, the deliberate omission of the 13th floor. We usually dismiss this as a harmless quirk of superstition, assuming that if the button is missing, the physical space simply doesn't exist. Mason worked as a security guard in a sterile glass tower that seemed far too modern for urban legends. It was a 25-story office building with a standard high-tech security grid. During his night shifts, the building was a closed loop. There were no cleaners, no late-night staff, and no unauthorized entries, just Mason and the monitors. But while an architect can skip a number on an elevator panel, they cannot easily erase a pocket of physical space from a blueprint. At 2:45 a.m., that physical gap announced itself. Mason watched his security monitors as Elevator C began to move through the empty building on its own. The tracking system showed the car making a series of illogical stops: the lobby, floor 7, 18, and then back down to 4. Then, the display registered a floor that wasn't programmed into the building's operating system, 13. As the elevator doors opened on that impossible level, the video feed from the cabin camera instantly cut to static. For 10 seconds, the screen remained blank. When the feed finally returned, the elevator was moving again, and the cabin was completely empty. The elevator had bypassed its core programming. It found a way to stop in a location that the building's own software claimed did not exist. The anomaly soon moved beyond the elevator system. A whisper came through Mason's secure radio channel, breaking the silence of the security office. The voice requested that security report to floor 13, a command that should have been a physical impossibility in a modern high-rise. When Mason didn't move, every hard-lined phone in the office began to ring at the exact same moment. He answered one of them. The same whisper delivered a 2-word confirmation: "We're waiting." The situation had progressed from a technical error to a direct request. Mason was being invited to a physical location that wasn't on the map. Mason decided to investigate, hoping to find a mechanical explanation for the phantom floor. When he walked to Elevator C, the doors opened immediately, as if the car had been holding its position just for him. Inside, he found a new physical button for the 13th floor, an archaic piece of hardware that had never been there during his previous patrols. He pressed the button labeled 13. The elevator began to climb, passing floor 12 and entering the hidden gap in the tower structure. Mason was now moving into the unmapped space between the floors, leaving the rules of the modern building behind. When the doors opened, the glass and steel were gone. He was looking into a dark hallway where the office doors were covered in a thick layer of undisturbed dust. At the end of the hall, a man in a black business suit stood with his back turned, telling Mason he was late. The lights inside the elevator failed. In the 2 seconds of darkness that followed, the man moved. He was suddenly inches away, and his head rotated at an impossible angle until he was smiling directly at Mason. The doors slammed shut. The elevator dropped so violently that Mason thought the cables had snapped. When it finally reached the lobby, the morning sun was shining through the glass. It was 8:30 a.m. In the time it took for the elevator to drop back to the lobby, nearly 6 hours of the outside world had vanished. Mason's supervisor was in a state of shock. For 6 hours, the security team had searched every room in the building and found no trace of him. They found the answer in an old maintenance file. The original blueprint showed a compressed sublevel labeled 13, tucked between the other floors. This wasn't a construction oversight. It was a deliberate, isolated pocket built into the very bones of the skyscraper. A handwritten note on the blueprint provided the only instruction for the floor: if the elevator stops here, never get out. Mason resigned that day. He still feels a surge of panic whenever he enters a building where the elevator buttons jump from 12 to 14. Architectural tradition might be a mask for something much more practical. These floors are likely omitted to keep these hidden, ancient spaces locked away from the people working around them.